Tonight on The Boss. Everyone has heard of Panera Bread.
We literally created the name Panera from nothing. There is no Joey Panera.
But did you know it all started with a chocolate chip cookie?
I was making the cookies, and one day became three became five.
He grew it into a multi-million-dollar company, employing 80,000 people all over the world,
The Italian combo, sure.
revolutionizing the way we eat.
Don't we all eat? Don't we all love good food? I'll have a Thai salad
Order up your favorite meal.
and the Sonoma chicken stuff.
You never know who might be in line.
I'm Ron Chick. I actually work for Panera too.
The Boss.
Nice to meet you.
A doting dad. A compassionate leader.
Creating a great experience and making a difference in the lives of all the people we're in relationship with.
He's Ron Shake,
Thank you very much. Good job.
the Panera Bread boss.
You did great.
Welcome to Panera Bread,
Can I have the next person in line ready to order?
serving millions of customers every day.
Lots of strawberry smoothie.
Trendy and unique.
And that comes with chips, apple, and bread.
The leader in quick and casual.
And here's your receipt.
Panera Bread has risen to have second best performing stock of any restaurant in the United States.
I actually work for Panera too.
Meet Ronald Mark Shake, co-founder and CEO of Panera Bread. Born in Boston, Massachusetts on December 30th, 1953, he is the son of a certified public accountant. Today, he lives in Boston with his wife Nancy and two children, Michael and Emma.
Ron is always late. Was late for our first date, late for dinner, but always there for us.
He went to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts in 1976 and earned an undergraduate degree in government and psychology.
I came of age in the 70s, and I came of age trying to figure out, well, what was I going to do with my life? And I think like many people at that time, trying to figure out, how do I make a difference?
While at school, Ron and his buddies were kicked out of a local store, accused of shoplifting.
You're going to completely edit this out.
Yeah.
But the experience got him thinking.
You know, screw these guys. Let's create our own store. What do we need them for? Right? And like so many times in my life, I said, heck, that's a good idea. Let's go do it.
So he opened his own store for students.
I was able to raise a tax through the student body, and somebody needed to do it, so I spent the summer between my sophomore and junior year ripping out an old triple decker in Worcester. I opened the store, and I ran it, and I discovered that business and the creation of the store was the most exciting, thrilling thing in my life.
On to Harvard University in 1978, where he earned a graduate business degree.
The further away you get from the Harvard Business School, the more you enjoy it. I sometimes found myself wondering, what was I doing at the Harvard Business School? Most people here were going off to work in corporate America, and that was never really what my intention or desire was.
But off to corporate America he went.
Went to work for a large company for a couple of years. Stayed as long as it still made sense to learn.
He worked as an assistant to the vice president of marketing at CVS stores. Ron then landed a job as manager for the Original Cookie Company and also opened his own bakery in Boston. His true intention.
I had attempted to open a cookie store in Boston. I couldn't get a lease. Nobody was interested in it. I had this idea I'd open an urban cookie store.
And that's how Panera Bread was born.
You know, 10% the size of a Panera today. And that was my first store, and ultimately grew into this company. I was making the cookies. I was the manager, and what I discovered is I just loved it. And one day became three became five.
Coming up on The Boss. Panera, what does it mean?
It has roots in Latin and Spanish.
What has it become?
We have 8 million guests every week.
Plus, why the boss stopped being the boss.
It's yours, sail on.
Panera, what does it mean?
It has roots in Latin and Spanish relative to breadbasket or an era of bread.
Panera is an era of its own.
I really like this sandwich.
Which one do you have? The Asiago?
I've been eating this sandwich since I was like 15 years old. Ate it in Chicago, ate it in Brooklyn, now I'm in Boston.
30 years ago, co-founder and CEO Ron Shaich set out to change the way people eat.
Don't we all eat? Don't we all love good food? Yeah. You know, I think the driving force for me was, as long as I can remember, it was I always loved figuring out, well, why do people do what they do?
In the early 80s, Ron opened a tiny store in Boston called The Cookie Jar, then merged with Au Bon Pain.
Down by Filene's, the only problem we had was nobody bought cookies before 12 noon. So I made a decision to put in French baked goods. And I went to a local company called Au Bon Pain. Unfortunately, they built them all over North America. They closed 10 of them. And by 1981, as I'm doing this, they had 3 stores. My little 400 square foot store, put in Au Bon Pain's baked goods, and off we went.
Shaich revitalized the company.
They had a lot of debt, and interest rates were sky high. I eventually made a proposal to them. I remember my dad said to me at the time, if it's worth having, you're not going to get any of it. If you get any of it, it's not worth having. And we decided in 1981, August of 1981, to put these 2 companies together. We took care of the good people, got rid of the people that didn't care, and managed to pay back much of the debt.
The wheels were in motion, and Au Bon Pain was no longer part of the grand plan for Ron.
And in '93, I'm sitting there looking at Au Bon Pain, I'm saying the very things that got us here are the things that limit us. And I said, let's be smart here. Let's not just keep driving growth off the cliff.
So he took a closer look at a little company that specialized in bread.
In November of '93, I met 4 gentlemen who owned a small chain in St. Louis called St. Louis Bread Company. They were bread and sandwiches based on the bread.
And Panera started to take shape.
All bread was local. And by the early '90s, again, reaction to the trend, people began to wake up and say, I want to do bread the way my grandparents did it. No preservatives, no chemicals, stone deck ovens. And in places like Boston and in New York and San Francisco, you saw the development of the artisan bread movement. You add that to a commitment to specialty food, to real quality, and you had a powerful vision. Panera's got a near $5 billion market cap today. That's what's worth $5 billion, that vision. And that vision is still the vision we're driven by today. For us, that vision is our North Star. I saw the opportunity to build Panera into a national brand. I knew that was real. It wasn't a gamble. I knew how hard it was going to be. I had been there. I had lived it. But I knew it could happen. And so to me, it was a smart bet.
Ron's chief concept officer remembers when Panera took off.
It was the evolution of St. Louis Bread Company into the concept we now know as Panera. It was building off of an idea and taking it to a place that I think we hadn't all fully considered at that point, how the food would work there. It blew us out of the water. It wasn't shortly after that, our customers started to really respond. And so for us, this was a chance to really create a new beginning and really open up a new way of thinking about what a restaurant, a quick service model could ultimately become. And I think ultimately it's changed a lot of how the industry works today.
What has Panera become?
We have 8 million guests every week. We have near $5 billion in investor capital. The single best performing restaurant stock and the second best consumer stock. And so in retrospect, it looks brilliant.
Successfully operating more than 1,000 cafes in 44 states and in Canada.
I work for Panera. I'm a district manager in the Boston market and have the honor and privilege of a cafe that's closest to Ron's house. We have the fortune of being right across from BU. Comes in waves, which is awesome. Creates for a dynamic environment, and we have some fun with it. Whether it's students or people that live in the city and in and about, professionals or students, a very comfortable environment.
We've worked very hard to provide nutritional options. I'll have a soup and a salad today, but on the other hand, you know, you also could have something quite indulgent. I must admit, yesterday I had a blueberry muffin. I just was in the mood for it.
Awards and special recognition.
We see an opportunity to meet people's needs. So first, we're about taste, but secondly, we're about giving you options. We led the effort for food you can trust.
Could we make food that lives up to our bread? And could it be food you can trust with ingredients like antibiotic-free chicken?
We were the first people to put up caloric information, calories, on a menu on a national basis. People thought we were nuts. Oh my God, you're going to let people know what your calories are? For us, it was obvious.
But it's the customer that counts.
It's comfortable, and we can eat quality food.
It's not crowded. They're sensitive to how noise is placed. It works well for being intimate, even though you're in a large room.
It's quiet, but there's enough going on, and I don't know, it's just soothing to be here.
It's just like a really good atmosphere, I think, and it's like I'm sitting in like a comfy chair.
Stay in your comfy chair, because next on The Boss, inside the mind of Ron Shaich.
Probably the most relentless person I've ever met. There's nothing that can get in his way.
Ron is always late. He was late for our first date.
Plus,
And can I just have a name for the order, please?
how his son is shaking things up at Panera.
Ron.
Who is Ron Shaich?
I actually work for Panera too.
Oh,
Nice to meet you.
Founder, CEO, and shareholder of Panera Bread.
You know, I went into business to make a difference.
Telling his story about the successful recipe of Panera Bread.
This is a 30-year conversation in how to make a difference in your life, how to make a difference in the lives of the people that work here, how to make a difference in the lives of the communities in which we operate.
Well, I think we're evolving. We've tried to tell the story in a more romanced way. A lot about our product differentiation. How do we talk more about why we exist?
Featured in Time Magazine, Forbes, and The Economist, with numerous appearances on NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox.
He is probably the most relentless person I've ever met. There's nothing that can get in his way. At the same time, he also has a soft heart. A fellow employee whose father was very sick and flying him out with him because they were friends so he could see his dad. It's a soft, golden heart, and I think part of that is reflected in everything that happens at Panera. But you come into a restaurant that actually encourages people to linger and connect, and there's fireplaces and paintings, and it feels like your living room is a company built on or reflective of somebody who really believes in bringing people together.
A man who needs no introduction, Ron Shaich.
But in 2010, he stepped down as CEO and handed off the job to Bill Morton.
I got a standing ovation before I started. These are my people.
He gave his farewell speech before 4,000 employees.
It's real, it's here, it's yours, sail on.
It was an emotional moment, but the break gave him time to focus on new projects. One from the heart.
I love it. I'm so excited. We've been all waiting for Panera, and this is even better.
Thank you so much.
Like Panera Cares.
Here we are opening this Panera Cares. It's 2 blocks away from where I opened the very first store, what ultimately became Au Bon Pain and then Panera Bread. So being home and opening this Panera Cares here in Boston has deep meaning to me.
There you go.
5 cafes, including this one that just opened in Boston, right across from City Hall.
This store, for example, we donated over $1 million to build this cafe. Once we do that, we donate it to a nonprofit foundation. It's up to the community to sustain it, cover the direct costs of the professional staff working here. It has to cover the direct costs of the food, and it has to cover the direct rent. Once we do that, anything that's in excess of that we actually retain in the foundation and is used for job training programs for at-risk kids. And so I think that this is going to be a fascinating experiment, as the other 4 have, about human nature and what people are willing to do. The reality is Panera will make nothing from it. We are not going to cure poverty with this. This is about food insecurity. 1 out of 6 Americans, 50 million people, live without certainty at some point during the year where their next meal is coming from.
You know that it's a community cafe and we're a nonprofit organization. We want to make sure that everybody leaves with a loaf of bread under every arm. That's part of Panera's logo. And that's why it's here. We want people to come take it.
But Ron couldn't stay away for long. In 2012, the company announced Ron and Bill would share the title of CEO.
Ron is able to balance this notion of strategic vision, and in many ways he is a visionary. We both love the power of ideas. We both love to create. We are, I think at our core, wanting to build things that have never existed before.
At home just outside of Boston, Ron's always thinking and moving.
We have a Panera Bread Bowl, but when we get up here, we run, right? Yes. So we were up here at 5:30. Today we did 3.5 miles. I'm not out to break records. I'm just, you know, I'm just trying to get it done. And I have a Ukrainian trainer who comes. I was a total couch potato. I mean, I realized that if I'd always talked about it, if I don't start working out, I'm never going to start working out, and then I'm going to have more serious problems. And so it's not, for me, it's not a joy, right? The best part of my workout is saying goodbye to my trainer.
On the treadmill or in the office, for Ron, the meter is always running.
We've been about trying to make a difference in people's lives. Kate, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could I ask you to go put a couple of quarters in my meter?
Coming up in The Boss, Panera on a roll.
So what do you think? Should we open in Germany?
Yeah.
Plus, the next generation.
He's a mirror for my own love of this place.
When The Boss returns. For Ron Shaich, CEO and founder of Panera Bread, the future is about remembering the past and the challenges of life and death.
For me, very interesting. You know, life works in phases. The 80s were great. The 90s were difficult. Began, you know, with the passing of my mom in '92. It essentially ended with the passing of my father in '98. A whole series of challenges at Au Bon Pain, which were very tough. And then at the end of '98, '99, we made the decision to bet the entire company on what later became Panera Bread. And that was the toughest decision of my life because in many ways Au Bon Pain was my first child.
Keeping his focus.
I got married to Nancy. I focused all my attention on that, and you know, since then the stock is up 50-fold and this has been the best performing restaurant company of the last half decade. Part of the lesson is you have to be clear where you're trying to go. You have to keep that end in mind. And if you're, you know, the whole key to everything I've tried to do in business, what I try to do with my children in my own life, is to create the future that I want. And so what I'm continually trying to do is imagine where the future is going. Even my own kids into that future.
I like art.
Looking to his children for inspiration.
Can I have the next person in line ready to order?
When I watch Michael at Panera, I realize something. His love of it gives voice and helps me to understand my own love of it.
Thank you for donating. I know that you will help somebody else have a meal today.
What Panera has been about since the day we began it was creating the kind of food that we wanted to serve to our own families.
For now, Ron says keeping one step ahead is his key to success.
In a world where everybody is short-term, all of our competitors, we think long-term. We're able to think much more broadly. Where do you live in Germany?
And globally.
I was just in Dusseldorf and Cologne. So what do you think? Should we open in Germany?
Yeah.
Connecting with the customer and his staff.
Mike just came to this cafe. He's got the unfortunate burden of running the cafe that is 1.5 blocks from my home.
My pleasure.
And oh, well.
It's my pleasure. You know?
Mike actually has worked for Panera for how long?
9 years.
9 years.
It's a family. It's not just a company. And when I interview people and I say to them, it's like no other company you work for, they're like, oh, I've heard that before. And I said, well, when you work for Panera, you become part of the family.
Nina, come on over here. Yes, you. Come on, let's go. Nina, what do we do here? Come on, how long have you been here?
I've been here for 3 years.
Okay, what do you do?
I actually set up the line, and I serve everything with a smile.
Most of the time.
A lifetime of lunch.
I'm gonna have the Thai salad and the Sonoma chicken stuff.
Striving to serve.
And your name?
Ron. We're in this never-ending effort to build something of quality and substance. What makes people tick? Why do they do what they do? Where is the world going? And how do we make sure Panera is ready for that and lands there when the future rises?
The most entrepreneurial person I've ever worked with yet. But he's always pushing and stretching and trying to think about the future.
Panera Bread, rising to the top.
The search that we've been on, that until basically the day I die I will continue to be on, is trying to figure out where are you as a consumer going? What are you going to want and why? And how do we land there? How do we get there in preparation for that?